Hello and welcome to another episode of ET Now on the Go, the Bangalore edition. And when you talk about Bangalore, you've got to talk about the heart of Bangalore, and that's Narayana Healthcare. Joining me today right here at the Narayana Healthcare Hospital is none other than Viren Prasad Shetty. Viren, thank you so much for being on ET Now and joining us on this Bangalore journey of ours. I was just admiring the idol here, and what a juxtapose and contradiction, because you've got God on one hand, and then you've got your robotic heart surgery with Da Vinci X on one.
Yes.
Just shows the vast, sort of horizon and landscape where healthcare has come in the country.
Yeah. So, quick background. That is a statue of Narayana.
Yes.
And that's what the group is named after. And what we noticed that a lot of people come here for hope, right? The organization that we built has to stand for something. And we stand for healing, hope, and compassion. And so that's what the statue signifies. The robot, on the other hand, signifies the direction that we're eventually moving towards, where people want cutting-edge care, they want the best, they want minimal access, minimal bleeding, and going home the same day. And so this is a good contrast between the two ways in which we think about our business. Cutting edge and something deeply rooted in tradition.
Absolutely. But I was just going through one of the WHO reports, and it says that the country itself is going to need an additional of 2.4 million beds by 2030. They say currently India stands at about almost touching 14 beds per 10,000 people, and the requirement, of course, is about almost 30 beds. How is it, do you think, that the industry and, of course, Narayana Healthcare as well within that can bridge this very vast gap?
Sure. There was a time that the entire industry, us included, believed that the only way you achieve this is by building palaces like this. It was okay 25 years ago. But the thing about it is that this is very, very expensive to pull off today. This is a massive campus. It's 12 acres. If we had to replicate this today, it will cost us several thousands of crores to build. And if you're talking about building 3 million beds across the country in the same format, there's simply not enough money in the whole country to achieve that. And so a lot of the work we've put in is to find out ways in which we can shrink that, to do more with the infrastructure we have. And we can take all of this and scale it down to a much smaller building that, as an industry, us as well as the rest of them are working towards. So we've all invested a lot in digitization, invested a lot in providing online care. We invested in kiosks so that we can make our infrastructure more efficient. And that's the only way India can close this gap.
But do you think 30 beds per 10,000 people is achievable from the current 14?
It's already been achieved in the largest cities. If you look at Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi, for example, we already have the total number of beds.
Sure.
The problem is not every bed is the same. Not every bed caters to the same level of quality. And so it's about what that next generation of beds look like. And so ours is a country with enormous potential and resources and intelligence. There's no raw material required. You don't need any sort of extractive oil or anything to make a hospital. It's just bricks, cement, steel, and people. We have no shortage of any of that. So we can easily achieve this.
But tell me, since you are talking about the kind of money that's involved into building not just palaces like these, but even basic hospitals, you yourself have outlined a capex of about almost 4,000 crore rupees over the next 3 to 4 years. Have you figured out a way to raise that kind of money? How much of it is going to be debt? How much equity? And the usage, of course.
So to the first part is that while we're saying that we can't spend as much money, we are spending as much money. And that's how it is with every business.
I guess there is no other option, right?
You have to do both.
Yeah.
We have to both invest thousands of crores to build hospitals for people who simply cannot get treated anywhere else. And you have to spend hundreds of crores to make the existing hospitals more efficient. And so how we do it is through debt, equity. We raise any number of resources from people that are required, but it's just going against the overwhelming need that exists out there, that we're just trying to cater to a very small portion of that requirement.
Okay, so no timeline. By when exactly are you looking to raise this 4,000 odd crores?
The equity raise is for much later. For right now, we have sufficient borrowing capacity and we have generated enough cash within the organization to be able to fund a lot of this.
Okay. The other thing I also wanted to talk about is that, time and again, we've had institutes such as yours go on record and say that the other way to expand is also via M&A, and we've seen heightened M&A, not just in the healthcare space, but even diagnostics, for instance, not just hospitals, but diagnostics as well. What are your own plans? how do you expand further?
Yeah. It is a good way to grow your footprint, buying someone else's hospitals. It's just not been the best way for us.
Why do you
One
say
is
that?
it's expensive.
Ah.
And for us, we cater to a demographic of people that tend to be not as, they're very price sensitive. And the problem with M&A is that you are paying 25, 30, 35 times earnings. So when you're putting that much money into buying and acquiring hospitals, you have to think about how much of that cost you're going to charge to your patients. And a lot of patients simply say, I don't want that. And since our ethos is rooted in being able to cater to the largest segment of the population, expensive M&A does make sense for us. M&A that comes at an affordable price, it's something we would do, but those tend not to happen as often.
So no interest in UK's Spire Healthcare?
Oh, that was, we've given a disclosure already. That was just something that...
But I also want to talk about is to investment. When you talk about investment into healthcare, it's not just infrastructure, right? I mean, here you have a robotic heart surgery, and I'm sure even technological advancement must be costing a lot, bringing that to the country. Do you think with technological advancements, also the costs have sort of appreciated?
Yes. See, the one thing is, being a poor country, as we are, the level of care that you will get in any of the large hospitals like ours is on par with some of the best in the world. We don't compromise when it comes to the medical equipment. We don't compromise when it comes to the training of our doctors. So an Indian patient coming to a top Indian hospital gets care that is commensurate with the best in the world. But the only way we can reduce the price and make it affordable compared to going anywhere else is that you have to have a huge amount of volume. So yes, it is expensive. The Da Vinci robot is expensive. Linear accelerator is
How
expensive.
much does it cost?
A fair amount.
Okay.
But we end up utilizing it a lot more. And so every person pays a lot less for the procedure. And so, yes, we have to spend because we have to provide cutting edge work. See, the robot, what it does is that it allows you to recover much faster, thus freeing up space in the hospital for us to treat more patients. And so by that calculation, it can make sense. But yes, healthcare costs will go up, not as much as most other costs go up in this country, but it is something that as people get older, as healthcare needs start to go up, everyone has to start saving more and more for the healthcare costs. Either put it in an account or buy health insurance.
But tell me, Viren, with technological advancements, yes, your beds free up faster, but also your ALOs, your average length of stays also comes down. So isn't it kind of a double-edged sword?
Like I said, you have to do both.
Yeah.
We have to add more beds for long stay patients,
Yeah.
people who come for transplants, people who come very sick, who need medical attention, they will stay for a long period of time. But also we need to invest in cutting edge surgery techniques, cath lab robots that discharge people faster. So every organization has to learn to do both.
So I can see this hoarding over here, Narayana Health Insurance, Narayana Aditi. Tell me more about that. How has that sort of changed now the patient experience, if I can call it that?
Yeah. So the question you didn't ask, which is why we should do it. Why are we not happy doing hospitals?
We chatted about that on air, so I picked it up from there, but yes.
We can reduce the cost to an enormous extent. We can make a 3 lakh rupee procedure as 1 lakh rupees. But it is still 1 lakh rupees a patient will not be happy paying. If we split up 1 lakh into 10,000 rupees over 10 years, that is an amount people can afford. And that's why we did the insurance. Now, how does it affect the patient experience? One is, now they are under our care. We've taken their money upfront. It is our responsibility to make sure they don't fall sick, which means we will manage them at home, we will keep them healthy, we will keep them out of the hospital, we will get their preventative checkups done, we will make sure they do all the tests that are required, we'll make sure they take all the medicines that they're required to do, because if they come to the hospital, that is a cost on us. So from a patient's perspective, they are agnostic. I'm paying it to the hospital, I'm out of the hospital. That's a great deal for us.
But was it a natural progression from healthcare into insurance? Because many also sort of question why the diversification. What was the need to do that?
We've always tried to reduce cost. We reduce cost by redesigning what buildings look like. We try to reduce cost by improving the efficiencies, getting people out faster, increasing utilization. This, we think, addressing payment, which is the biggest concern. In this hospital, there is an entire wing dedicated over there for people who simply cannot afford the procedures that are done here. So if I can reduce cost and turn it into an EMI, if you have it, then I can open up healthcare access to a huge swath of people who otherwise don't have that money.
Let's also talk about the risks that come by with the business and, of course, expansion thereof. Because, like I said, the critics always question why the diversification, the kind of losses that it sort of, incurred, about almost 40 crore rupees in FY24 alone. When do you see the combined business actually turning around and the new diversification turning profitable?
See, the amount that we would spend in insurance is insignificant compared to the amount that we're spending in the hospital business.
Of course.
We have thousands of crores at stake in building all these beds across the country. And so for us, as a hedge, we would want to spend a couple of 100 crores on clinics and insurance to make sure that those hospitals get filled up. Without that, it'll be very hard for us to be confident that all the beds we put in future will at least have these many patients who will come in from day one.
But tell me, why is healthcare such a tough business to be in? I mean, we're a country which is very prone to heart diseases, right, genetically. Our lifestyles, of course, are, taking it all downhill in any case, sedentary at that. Then the volume shouldn't be a problem, and especially for cost-sensitive companies such as yours.
Number one, most people don't know they have a problem. Number two, if they have a problem with their health, they don't know what the right solution is for that. So number three, once they identify they have a problem, they've identified what the solution is, then the last part is they can't afford to get the treatment done. So that's it. It doesn't matter. There are millions and millions of patients out there walking on without knowing they have underlying cardiac issue, without knowing they have some tumors, without knowing there is something wrong with them. And so filling up these hospital beds involves increasing awareness, making sure more people get checkups done, building in a culture of people proactively paying for health insurance and checkups so that we're able to early diagnose them so that they don't end up spending lakhs tomorrow. Now, why is healthcare difficult? For all the reasons that running any sort of business in India is difficult. It's highly regulated. There are a lot of permits and licenses you require. It's very hard to attract talent and manpower. Indian doctors and nurses are sought all over the world, so they can work anywhere. So it's hard to attract and retain talent. It's expensive to build. And on top of all of that, you have to cater to people who really cannot afford to pay very much for your services. So trying to balance all things, that's what makes it interesting.
What's the toughest of them all, though, out of all the problems that you just highlighted?
I would say that from my perspective, so I come in not from the medical side, so I just try to see how everything pays for itself. So at least from my limited worldview, my perspective on this business, the most challenging thing is to make all the numbers add up and so that we're not out of business tomorrow.
You're still watching ET Now on the Go Bangalore edition, and I'm still in conversation with Viren Prasad Shetty from Narayana Healthcare. Viren, before the break, you were talking about as to how the policy framework sometimes as well, or the regulatory hurdles, as we call them, also pose a challenge. When it comes to your insurance business, how much of a hurdle is it turning out to be right now?
There was a time when an organization like ours could not even dream of applying for a health insurance license. In prior years, the requirement for anyone applying for insurance is you had to either tie up with an established insurance company or you need to bring a significant amount of insurance experience yourself. We had neither. All we knew was treating patients. But the new regulator on the IRD and the head of the IRD was very, very supportive because they have a mandate from the government that they've been doing it this way for so long and only 10% of the country has health insurance. There's an entire missing middle of 50% of the country that doesn't have access to health insurance, so they're willing to try new things. And so we said, this is a new thing we're doing. We come in with no insurance experience. We are just a hospital. We're going to treat insurance like healthcare, like prepaid healthcare. It's going to be restricted just to our hospitals, but it will offer patients unlimited access to healthcare within our hospitals. And they said, great, we want to see this happen. If you're saying it will reduce cost, provide a better experience, and increase access for patients, this is something we want to see, and we are very supportive. So yes, in terms of us being able to cross that hurdle and apply for the insurance license, the new thinking allowed us to do that. But of course, once we got there, the regulations and all of that are par for the course. It is what any industry has to deal with. And since we are in the healthcare industry, we're used to dealing with thousands and thousands of compliances. The insurance was just another 100 forms for my compliance
You thought it
department.
was worth it. Yeah.
My compliance department will deal with that.
Yeah. But tell me, why the expansion to Cayman Islands?
There was a time when we wanted to do medical tourism in a very big way. Our idea for going into Cayman Islands was that we would have plane loads of Americans and Canadians coming, and they would fill up the hospital in Cayman because it's very close by, and we would offer really good services at a fraction of the cost. But that thesis turned out to be wrong. Instead, what we found is that there is a very underserved population within the Caribbean who will really benefit from providing cutting-edge care in a much smaller setup and delivered very efficiently. So we came in with one idea and we pivoted and managed to make a success out of the other, which is world-class care provided by us in a very efficient manner for a much smaller population.
When do you see Cayman actually turning around for you?
Cayman turned around a while back. It's
Okay.
one of our most profitable hospitals. It does very well. It's not in scale what we imagined.
Of
We thought
course.
it would be 2,000 beds. It's only about 100 beds, but it's small and very, very profitable.
So any further small such global expansions, or you've learned your lessons from Cayman?
No, the lessons we've learned is that there is tremendous opportunity for
Sure.
a very low cost, efficient Indian operator to deliver outsized performance in a foreign market where everyone has the ability to pay. Because for us, we deal like price sensitivity of the customer is so much of an issue that everything is oriented around that. You take that away, you can do everything else that we do and perform much better than the competition because our DNA is oriented on efficiency and cost cutting. So the lesson is Western markets, highly developed countries where we have the ability to participate and run a very efficient operation. That's something we definitely want to explore.
So where would you like to explore then?
Well, what we've mentioned is that other countries that are like the Caribbean, westernized, rule of law, very stable economy, where the currency is pegged to, dollar, GBP, whichever that is. So those westernized countries where you can take over something or run a hospital group in a place where your addition makes a large difference. In a country where, say, Panama or Costa Rica, we will not be that much more efficient than the operators over there. But in countries that are like the Caribbean or other British Commonwealth countries, those are places where we can make a difference.
Are you headed in that direction? Is anything on the table being worked upon?
There are many projects we've looked at. There are many discussions we've had, and some have leaked through the press, some have not, but none of them taken up to any level where it's anything that is a place where we can either announce, and these are very early preliminary stage discussions.
But tell me, Viren, why not expand in your own country? I mean, we're the largest population right now. Like you said, we have things going for us. We've got extremely qualified, skilled set of doctors as well. And now you have that sort of buying power, if I can, equate that to healthcare, because people can afford both healthcare as well as diagnostics, an expensive one at that too.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, any organization that has to last a long time has to do both.
Yeah.
We have to cater to the Indian market, this is the most dynamic economy in the world. It's the fastest growing market for healthcare, and we have one of the strongest brands. We can do this. But the things that make us very good as an operator in India make us extraordinary in a Western context.
Of course.
And so we would not want to deny our company the opportunity to be able to deliver really good returns for our shareholders, and also because we are at its core an organization that wants to do good in the world. And anywhere we see an opportunity where we can make a difference is one that we would explore.
So where in India now is the next expansion or phase of expansion?
We are very spread out across the country. The places where we are most prominent are Bangalore and Calcutta.
Of course.
And those are the places where the bulk of our investment will go. But we also have hospitals in Delhi, Raipur, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Mysore, Shimoga, Dharwad, Jamshedpur, and those we will be investing over time. But for the near term, it's Bangalore and Calcutta. That's the highest priority, followed by Delhi and Raipur after that.
No more further expansion into the west or, further beyond Delhi as well, or more in Delhi?
Yeah, definitely more in Delhi. Delhi is one of the largest markets for healthcare in the country,
Yeah.
and it caters to a huge segment of the population in
Yeah.
a way that you don't see that in South India, where cities are pretty self-dependent and people don't travel across states. But in India, Delhi is the fulcrum of all of North India. So Delhi definitely requires a lot of hospitals, but that are more aligned with the way we operate, which is very, very good quality healthcare at an affordable price.
So tell me now, Viren, as we wind down in the show, where is it that you see Narayana Healthcare, say, 10 years from now? Let's talk a decade into the business from where we are today.
Well, physically, 10 years from now, we want all of this to be replaced by those kiosks that
we
put
saw
over
downstairs,
there.
yes.
Right. There's so much about our business that needs paper, that is people going from counter to counter. There's so much information that is transmitted that is wasted time.
Yeah.
So our organization 10 years from now should be one where you come in, you know exactly which room in the hospital you have to go to. Everything is done and cleared and paid for before you come in. Getting in and out of the hospital should be as easy as ordering from McDonald's. That is the experience we want our customer. Because
are you allowed ordering from McDonald's in your house? Isn't it bad for heart health?
Yes, but there's still lessons we can learn. In fact, it was the person who made the McDonald's kiosks that we contracted to say, make our kiosk as well. Maybe you can do some good in this world.
Yeah.
So 10 years from now, our hospital should be unrecognizable. Because unless we do this, we won't be able to bring down the cost. We won't be able to make our services more accessible.
And it also, from a patient experience, you come to a hospital not for leisure, right? In any case, you're so mentally harrowed, and just like you said, going from desk to desk with all that paperwork just sort of adds down to the pressure. So
we treat it like flying. Flying is a miserable experience. Going to a hospital is a miserable experience. We will all admit to that. But the companies that win in that are the ones who make the process of going from point A to point B as painless as possible. You can't deny that you will be sick. You can't deny that you will need to be treated, or your chest is cut open, or something will be a miserable experience. But all the nonsense around that, we can get rid of. All the claims, all the discharge issues, all the medicines not being available, the bathrooms being crowded, the waiting room or the doctors making you wait for hours and hours. We can get rid of all of that. That means we can shorten the time that they spend in our hospitals being miserable.
So now tell me, what's a day at home like with your father and brother at the helm? Are you allowed to eat junk? How is it that you yourself take care of your heart health?
Not that I'm not allowed to eat junk. The rule is to have all things in moderation. So I never deny myself the things that I want. But of course, working in this hospital, we understand the consequences of a life that's lived without exercise, or one that is filled with bad dietary choices. So one thing that Dr. Shetty advises all his patients, and one I recommend in your organization to do as well, anytime you're on a phone call, to put on the Bluetooth headset and just go for a walk.
Yeah.
There is much more efficacy of exercise taken in small increments throughout the day than to spend 30 minutes, 1 hour in the gym.
Yeah.
It's not as efficient.
Yeah.
But these small micro movements that anyone can do throughout the day will have much greater impact on your overall health than just killing yourself in the gym.
But tell me one thing, at what age should one actually start sort of, getting into preventive healthcare checkups, and especially when it comes to the heart?
So,
and what tests could one, get done?
Now, obviously, you have to understand our bias towards this. As an organization that deals with very complex healthcare, for us, we'd say there's never too early a time. The traditional guidelines say 40, but when we say 40 is too late. You need to get your tests done in your 30s. I got all my tests done when I was in my 30s, and I was able to identify the danger points of my own health journey, because I come from a family that does have a lot of underlying issues, just like every Indian family.
Oh,
there are certain people that we know have heart issues, there are certain people we know have diabetes issues. Those are the things that plague Indians. So 30 or even earlier, because it doesn't cost much and it's not that difficult. It's just a blood test and it's just a few scans that you need to do. So as early as possible, everyone needs to get a checkup so that you at least have a diagnosis of what could possibly go wrong, so that no one is caught by surprise.
Amazing. And I guess that's what everyone at ET Now watching this show would do. Go get your health checkup done, because you never know. It may be too early, but it may also be too late. But Viren, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you.
Great speaking with you. Thank you.